One evening, a Yid comes to my house in Montreal, and he comes in, and he tells me he's an older person. He looked a little familiar to me, but I wasn't sure why. He told me that he was fundraising for one of the local meisters, and we sat down, we were schmoozing, and he said to me, "What's your name?" And I said, "My name," and he said, "Oh, you related to those Bessers?" And he said, "The names of my parents, it's all Zayn Gesund, my father and mother, who don't live in Montreal anymore. They had already moved to New York." I said, "Yeah, those are my parents." And he says, "Oh, your mother's a very special woman." But it was an odd thing to me that he said that. Why my mother? Why not my father? And I asked him how he knows her. So he said, "Oh, his name is Mr. Klein, and he had a butcher shop in Montreal, and my mother was a customer there." A few months later, he comes to my house again. Not for money. He wants to show me something. He was back in the neighborhood. He reaches into his pocket. He takes out an envelope. And in the envelope is 3 or 4 cards. You know, the stationery cards with names of a couple on them, with my parents' names on them. And each one is a handwritten letter from my mother's Zayn Gesund stark. And the letter is more or less, they're dated different times from different years, but they all say the same thing. Dear Mr. Klein, thank you so much for your role in our Simchas Yantif. We had a beautiful Yantif, my family, I had my children, I had my sons-in-law, I had Einiklach, whatever the case was. And so much of this Yantif, so much of the beauty, the pleasure, the delight of this Yantif came from the beautiful Sudas. And so much of the Sudas only came because of the quality of the meat, because of the freshness of the meat, because you make the meat available. You're such a big part of our Yantif. You're such a big part of Yantif in so many homes in Montreal. The schus should stand by your family and by you. You should have simchas. Written very eloquently and warmly. But the point was, you're not just a butcher. You're somebody who is instrumental, who's vital, who's a fundamental part, a pipeline of Simchas Yantif into the homes of Montreal. He held these papers, an older person, a serious person, and he has tears in his eyes. And he says, "I saved them. Do you see what she did for me?" That means with a few words, she redefined a person's whole relationship with themselves and with what they do every day. And every Yid in the world who's making panasa to feed his family is doing that. It's not that hard to learn to look at people that way. We create realities with our words. Mr. Klein, you're not just a butcher. Not that there's anything wrong with being a butcher, but you're so much more than a butcher. You're the way the Rebbeinu Shalom provides meat to the families of this city for Simchas Yantif. You're part of that plan. You're much bigger than it seems. Words create a reality.